This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome, one and all, to the iRacing Esports Network this Wednesday, the 27th of February, 2019. We've got a bumper night coming up for you all. This is the Alpinestars Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia. We are here at the Nurburgring Grand Prix Strecker. Really looking forward to this one. It's going to be such an awesome round of the series. Not only do we have the championship holding up, but we're going back to our 45-minute race format. It's going to be a fun one. My name's Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box, as per usual, Mr. David Haynes, Hungry Bear himself. Welcome, David. Looking forward to getting racing in this championship again.
Yep, our standard race format, fuel tank restriction, 45-minute race. It's long enough that we get a little bit of strategy. There might be a safety car, all that kind of stuff to happen, but it's short enough. It still feels like a real sprint race. There's something to be gained on every lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a lap this is. The Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker. These are the championship standings as they are right now. Looking at the Teams Championship at the moment. Trick Sim Sports up in front of DPR and Full Momentum there for the top three. Definitely seems like Trick, well and truly, have a stranglehold on the Teams Championship at the moment, David.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen multiple of their cars in the top 10 at every round. And of course, the Teams Championship counts the top 2 results of any cars in that team. So if they finish second, third, and fourth, they'd get the points for second and third. So just the consistency, having lots of cars in the top 10, means a solid rake of points every round.
Yeah, absolutely does. Following up behind them, DPR and Full Momentum. Well, it's pretty close between those two, and they seem like they won't exactly be able to assail Trick unless something drastic happens in the last part of the season. The drivers' standings, on the other hand, tell a different story. John Peasnick and Ross Rizzo incredibly close there between JPR Racing and Trick Sim Sports. The rest of the Trick crew, among them Scott Solowski, Anthony Winkleman, and Martin Silvassi, they are also very close behind. Super close drivers' standings.
Yeah, exactly. Peasnick and Rizzo, 2 of the title hopefuls from last season. It went down to the line last season. It's looking very close this season for the same thing to very likely happen again. And then also, Ross Rizzo, defending champ, he has to be looking behind him there. He is not very far clear of some of his teammates, Anthony Winkleman, Martin Silvassi, but also their new signing, Scott Solowski, within the top 3 there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a championship that has historically always thrown up a few surprises. Mr. Rizzo coming off the best in all 3 of the seasons that have been run so far of this series, largely due to his care and persistence in getting results. That's what's important in this series. It may be called Sprint Series Australasia, but you do have to treat it sort of like an endurance series.
Yep, to finish first, you must first finish. An absolute cliche in just about anything from business to all kinds of sport. But you know, it holds true enough It's the strategy that Trick SimSports and Ross Rizzo have employed to success in this series before.
Yeah, they absolutely have, and we only have 30 seconds left in this warm-up session before we get into the race, so now is the time that we do need to start thinking about the race here at the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. It's a track with a reasonably long run to turn 1, but that turn 1 is one of the tightest we go to.
Oh yeah, exactly. First gear in a lot of different types of race cars. Certainly the scene of some incidents is a little kink to the right, sort of in the braking zone. That can catch people out. They can be expecting their competitor to maybe take a different line towards the turning point than they do. It can be the scene of a pile-up in many different series, many different types of cars. We've got a rolling start. We'll be hoping for a clean start this race.
Yeah, certainly will. Speaking of the start, this is how the drivers are going to line up. On row 1, we have Damien McPhee and Blake Neck. McPhee, very awesome to see him back in this series and on pole. Scott Solowski and Trent Thomas head up the Trick offensive, I guess you could say, with Mitch Martin and Martin Silvassi behind them. Mark Rayner and Ross Rizzo completing the top 8 there.
9th is Corey Ott. 10th, Jackson Suzlin Harlow. We saw him in the top of the drivers' standings. He's still in with a shout. 11th is Ryan Jarek. 12th, Cameron Stubber. 13th is Daniel Cheney. 14th, Adam Briggs of DPR Racing. 15th, Hayden Dodman. And 16th is Justin Strickland.
In 17th, we have Benjamin Johnson, and Richard Hunter joins him there on row 9. David Mulhall and Brett Cananzi next, rounding out the top 20 with David Jellings and Benito Montalbano. That's a name that I have not seen before. Welcome to the series. As the drivers move off, we got Daniel Misdale and Wayne Hewitt completing the 24.
25th is Reese Keane. 26th, Matt Hoppitz. 27th, Dave Clements. 28th, Gary Cousins. 29th is Paul Nichols. 30th, Stephen Bartholomew. 31st, Pat Gallo, someone we might have expected to see a teeny bit higher up the order. And 32nd, Alex Court.
And rounding out our 35-car field here, Chris Polly, David Farrelly, and Mitch McLeod from Talk Inc. Starting dead last, but we should expect him to be further up as the race goes on. The pace car is in. McPhee is going to be the one leading the field away here, and it's a short run to the start-finish line out of this last turn. McPhee is away. A great jump from him. He absolutely caught Blake Neck sleeping there. And Neck now fighting with Silovsky for that second place, but McPhee is going to lead them into turn 1 as the field spreads out behind him. Oh, Blake Neck.
Gets the inside. Blake Neck's very, very wide. Then he gets the inside for the next corner. Still just too wide everywhere through the first corner. Nothing crazy there yet, and Blake Neck will once again have the inside line. I think for the moment he's secured that second place. Still too wide behind.
Yeah, look out. Trent Thomas has actually had a bit of a slip up. He's lost quite a few positions, over-rotating the car through the left-hander, and he is right in the midst of a very awkward battle here. My goodness, Corey Ott, Martin Silvassi, and Jackson Harlow in amongst all of this. Trent Thomas desperately trying to regain that spot that he qualified in.
Yeah, precisely. They come through the forward curve, down this little straight towards a very, very long right-hand. If you've got any understeer in your car, you will feel it right here.
Yeah, you absolutely will. But then as Trent Thomas continues going side by side with Corey Ott, you come up to the Schumacher S. This is one of the hair-raising sections of the circuit. We take a look at Adam Briggs taking that section there, flat out in most cars. And that is David Jellings with a little bit of a bad run there versus Daniel Misdale, but he can recover that. These sections of turns faster than they look. The drivers, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how clean this first lap has been so far. No major crashes, but I'm going to touch wood. We've still got a few corners to go. They're coming into the chicane here. We're running the old Block Pan and World Endurance Championship layout with the fast original chicane at the end of the lap. So these drivers not facing as much. Whoa, goodness me, Silvassi, bit of a bad run out of the last turn, but that's one overtaking spot kind of gone, as now Corey Ott is facing pressure from Thomas.
Yeah, poor start from Trent Thomas, but he's going to get one of those spots back, maybe. You can go side by side a long way through this first section because it's a right-hander and then a left-hander, and then if you hang it around the outside of the next left-hander, that becomes the inside for the next corner. And someone's had a problem there.
Yeah, that's Gary Cousins there. Yeah, he's participating for the Bailey Ladders team with Paul Wood. We're going to take a look at a replay thanks to Motum Simulation. Thanks very much for coming on board as our replay sponsor, guys. Let's have a look at what happened here. A couple of drivers moving around down the start-finish straight, and Cousins, of course, in an awkward position here with a lot of cars around him. Oh my goodness, I think he was an innocent bystander there. A couple of cars coming together. He was stuck on the outside. Poor Gary.
Yeah, it just ends up 3 wide. The inside car kind of pinballing the middle car into him. Not a huge amount of contact, but at that kind of corner with that kind of steering input, just enough to jump the car up and send him around.
Yes, indeed. We go back live now, and up the front of the field. Oh my goodness, I see a spinner. I see a spinner. That's going to be Mitch Martin. He was running in position 4. Now he's having to make a bit of a recovery. Now, how did that happen? It looks like he just did it on his own.
Possible. You can go quickly by cutting a lot of the curb on the inside of the corner. Is that what he's done, or is he on the grass on the outside? I know he just turned it in, and it's just the rear is gone.
Yeah, that's it. That's a real shame for Mitch. Now he's going to have to work very hard to get those positions back. Of course, it's not a short race, but there's still not quite enough time to try and get back onto the back of the guys you were battling with before. We're right on board with Mark Rayner, looking back at DPR's Adam Briggs, who is currently in contention for the title of the Oceanic Formula 3 Championship. Of course, Briggs likes his GTs, and he likes to have those outings in the Ford. So he's doing all right at the moment. Up into 10th position from 14th, good run from Briggs. Hayden Dodman up from 15th. So we've got a few drivers making their way up the field here. Ryan Jerick there, one of the losers. He started in 11th.
Yeah, also Daniel Cheney losing out some around there. And I think for Briggs, it's a slightly new look on the Ford, and he's definitely making it work in what's a little bit of a sea of Porsches up the front. But he's in a Ferrari sandwich right now.
Yeah, certainly. That does look like a new paint job there for the DPR Racing boys. Good to see, nice and clean.
Yeah, they did announce that their road sponsor was going to be Southwell Lifted Voice. It's now appearing on all of their road racing cars, so I think that's the reason for the refresh.
Yes, indeed. Well, we briefly take a look here at Richard Hunter, who is the teammate of Adam Briggs. David Jellings really pressuring there in the number 75. Oh my goodness. Benito going side by side here with Mr. Martin, who is attempting to recover. Looks like Martin well and truly has the measure of him there.
Yeah, of course, that spin taking Mitch Martin from 4th down to about 22nd or so, and now we see, is the chicane still an overtaking opportunity? Potentially very gutsy to go too wide through there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something you'd intentionally want to do before the opportune time. I'd say the last lap of the race. But things going all right for these guys. Up in 8th, 7th and 6th. So Silvasti, Ott and Thomas. Of course, Trent is looking for a bit of a recovery drive, losing a few positions on lap 1. But Corey Ott and Martin Silvasti are definitely staking their claim well as well.
Exactly. As we saw at, I believe it might have been the Monza round, Damien McPhee bordering on unstoppable, charging away, getting towards a 3-second lead. Blake Neck behind him also with a little bit of comfort, but from there on back, 3rd down to 28th, there's just all battles, and that's what we love to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We keep talking about it on these broadcasts, but the balance of performance between these cars has turned out to be rather even, rather beneficial. Yes, there are a lot of Porsches up the front, but you notice that the field is not entirely dominated by just one model of car. My goodness, Hayden Dodman, that's going to be
He's going to get a slowdown. Yeah, exactly. A bit of understeer or potentially oversteer through the first bit of the Schumacher S. He's had to cut the second apex, and that will give you a slowdown penalty every day of the week. Looks like he's managed to clear it quickly. He probably lost one spot or two, or at least definitely didn't advance from that.
Yes, indeed. Well, Looks to me like some side-by-side running. Adam Briggs and Justin Strickland actually going side-by-side on the entry to the chicane, and Strickland rightly yielding there. Don't want to push the envelope through that sequence of corners. Hayden Dodman to a stop on the inside of the last turn. He is having some major issues with that car at the moment. Oh, careful with the rejoin. Now he's side-by-side with his teammate.
Balance not looking good, or he's just over driving that. Not a good lap at all for Hayden Dodman.
Yeah, certainly not. Mitch McLeod carrying a slight bit of damage to his left front as well. So we're talking guys not having the best of days out there, but I'm sure they'll be at least having a bit of fun as they fight with Dave Clements in front of them. Briggs and Strickland still going at it meanwhile. And Strickland and Briggs both advancing a fair way up the field. I'll be looking to preserve these positions as much as possible. Did notice that with the way they came together near the end of the lap, Strickland might have a bit of straight line advantage over Briggs.
Yeah, Briggs was very, very close with Mark Rayner as well. Now Mark Rayner has skipped away. It's sort of Briggs holding up Strickland. Here's a change for 7th place potentially. Corey Ott will stay to the left. That's the inside line. Trent Thomas is going to have to try and go around the outside, and done well with that. And then the job done. He didn't even need the fact that the next corner was going to give him the inside. We look a little bit further up as well, Reese.
Yeah, we certainly do. Silvassi and Harlow really close at the moment, and has Harlow had a problem? Oh my goodness, really pushing the envelope there. Silvassi going majorly defensive. Harlow having to go to the, wow, almost pushed out to the grass. My goodness, this is happening so quickly, I'm not even sure what's happening. These guys are really coming together. Harlow must have had a problem because he was not that close to Silvassi before.
Yeah, now it's flying formation, nearly 2 by 2. They've cost themselves just a second or so. That's let Trent Thomas get right there. Corey Ott, Mark Rayner as well. So still on the inside of the first corner goes Jackson Susan Harlow. He's gotten clear of Silvassi, but Trent Thomas is then going to try and switch it back, get a good run, and through all that, Mark Rayner is trying to go around the outside of Corey Ott. There's contact.
Oh my goodness! Oh, a little bit of contact. Harlow just lost it on the inside. I think there might have been a bit of contact with Silvassi. Harlow jamming it up the inside there, but he's managed to keep it going. He is still in touch with those guys. This is great racing, I have to say. These kinds of battles are the reason why we all keep coming back to this series, because these kinds of battles, you just have a lot of fun driving these cars around these people. It's awesome to watch.
Yeah, and look at that. Harlow lost maybe 3 seconds, but 5 positions, and now it's a train. 5th down to 13th. Silvassi, Thomas, Ott, Rayner, Briggs now there. Jackson Susan Harlow now in 10th. Just behind him is Justin Strickland.
Yes, indeed. So a very long train of cars here, and Corey Ott with a little bit of a run on Trent Thomas. Now we take a look at Ott from the back of Thomas. Thomas, of course, running some purple trim on his trick livery, possibly as a tribute to his old team Fusion Sim Racing. Meanwhile,
you won't let that one go, will you?
No, certainly not. Hey, it's something that we picked up on pretty quickly once the liveries were released. But Benjamin Johnson here at the moment versus David Mulhall. This is for one of the minor positions in the top 20. Mulhall, he has had a reasonably consistent race. Started 19th, now up in 17th. So those guys having a good fight there. This fight, though, is far from over. We still have pit stops to think about. Oh, have a look at Harlow.
Harlow back at Briggs. Briggs then, of course, has the inside for the next corner. So what I'm talking about with 1 and 2, the outside becomes the inside. And I swear before I've said it's like picking up dog poo in the park using the plastic bag method.
What?
You put your hand in at the outside, becomes the inside. Nonetheless, the battles continue no matter what stupid things I'm saying. Still side by side after 4 corners. We love this. Harlow now has the inside of Briggs, and I think he's got that back. A lot of pace for the TTL driver, as once again a broken restart. I can only apologize.
I thought I had a good grip on analogies, but you just knocked it out of the park. My goodness, I have never heard that before. Justin Strickland really looking to get in amongst this battle because Briggs and Harlow really getting into each other right now. Through the Schumacher S, it's possible one of them could suffer a bit of aero wash. Cut the corner a bit too much, but they still managed to keep it together. Oh no! Oh no! Briggs! Speak of the devil! Speak of the devil! A slowdown!
Yeah, I think the Schumacher S is probably one of the weaker points for the Ford. People talk about it not liking the curbs, not liking the bumps quite as much. And to be quick through the Schumacher S, you've got to straight line it as much as you can. You've got to ride all of those curves. Maybe Briggs has caught just a little bit too much. It's going to cost him a bunch of positions, 2 or 3 even.
Yeah, certainly. So he's lost his chance to be battling with these guys up the top. That is a trick car pulling into the pits. Mr. Salvassi, the first to blink here. So they're 7 laps into this 45-minute race. About the 32 minutes to go. So that looks like a rather early stop for Salvassi.
Could pay benefits for him if there's a safety car later, potentially, but otherwise it does have the potential to otherwise put him into the traffic and cost him more time than this pack that haven't pitted.
Yes, indeed.
So a risky move, potential rewards, but potential losses as well. He could very easily be overcut by a bunch of the guys he's racing against.
Yeah, certainly could. Mark Rayner, we just noticed, having a little bit of an issue there. Meanwhile, Blake Neck is looking... He's got nothing in front of him, but he has got a Trick Sim Sports Ferrari starting to appear in his mirrors in the form of Mr. Solovsky right back there. Also, keep a lookout for Ross Rizzo, who is starting to draw up on these guys. Things could get a little troublesome for Neck if these guys manage to catch up to him.
Neck was 0.2 faster than Solowski last lap, but the overall trend definitely sees that third place car catching up to Blake Neck little by little.
Yes, indeed. It actually looks like Rizzo last lap was second fastest there. Solovsky was slower than Neck by about 0.2, but Rizzo more or less even. We've got a replay coming up there of, oh goodness, that's Mitch McLeod having a big issue there. Let's have a look at what went on. So McLeod going side by side with Reese Keane. Might they have come together in the middle of the Schumacher S? Yes, seems that way. I mean, that kind of move going side by side through there is not something that you would generally want to do.
I mean, it's very risky, but you don't want to be the driver who yields. A little bit of a game of chicken there. And of course, if he could have held it around the outside, it becomes the inside. But, you know, in the end, a little bit of contact there, and McLeod, the loser, and Keane relatively unaffected. We had a quick look at where Salvassi came out in the field, being one of the first drivers to pit. Now we're looking, Jackson Susan-Harlow continuing his recovery drive. He was in 5th, got knocked down to 10th. He's now in 8th, looking at trying to grab 7th place. And there's a little Ferrari on Ferrari battle behind him. Once again, this bit between 5th and 10th place, very hotly contested, anyone's game, and there's still pit stops to happen. Harlow locks it up.
Yeah, goodness me. And Harlow, we have noticed, you know, he has got the pace, he has got the potential, he's definitely a driver to watch in the future. There's just a few kinks, I think, that need to be ironed out in his driving. He does tend to be a bit over-aggressive sometimes, and that's been to his detriment, particularly in this race. So what Harlow, I think, needs to do now is just cut back a little bit, make sure that he's putting some consistent pressure on, and try to keep all 4 wheels on the tarmac and going in the right direction.
Yeah, certainly. A lot of promise there, a lot of speed. But as we've already seen, you know, some lockups, some little scruffy bits to be polished down, get the 1,600 grit sandpaper out or something. It's that everything's there. It just needs to click, and then some podiums definitely possible. He's been picked up by TTL Esports relatively recently, and you can tell what they see in him.
Yeah, certainly. In fact, Harlow with a second place at the opening round of the series at Brands Hatch. That's Pat Gallo with a couple of issues. We're going to get a quick replay of that one. See what happened to the Redback Racing Team driver. So this was coming up past the pit entry, I believe. And let's have a look at what happened to him here. Just coming through the chicane, a little bit too much curb. And that was all she wrote.
Yeah, wide of the first apex, a lot of curb at the second apex. Jumped it up in the air and it's gone around. And Mark Rayner, just as we cut away from him, he went deep on the brakes into turn 1. And through the next sequence of corners, somewhere along Jackson Susan Harlow, pulled himself up one more spot. This might drop Rayner backwards to the battle that's right behind him. Here's another one deeper in the field. There's someone's around.
That's right.
He's running very well. Now he's down in 20th.
Yeah, my goodness, that's his big heartbreak for Briggs. First the slowdown, now this. Let's have a look. Motor replay once again. Awful lot happening on track at the moment. So Briggs down at about 19th now. And we'll see what happened to him down here at the southern curve. Oh, just a little lock-up, and that was a very slow spin that would have been very frustrating for him. And we're going to also get vision here of Harlow completing the move on Mark Rayner. That happened exiting the arena. Just got a better exit.
Yep, indeed. He moves himself back up into 7th place. There's that battle right behind him. Obviously, Rayner hasn't been dropped yet, but Strickland and Jarek's still going at it. And their forwards are not looking stable to drive.
No, certainly not. Benjamin Johnson with issues there. But I'll tell you what, Rayner has not let Harlow go. He's still harassing the back of him. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, presumably little different strengths around the circuit. Harlow's gotten past, but there's still places where the Ferrari could be strong. Maybe the drive off the slow corners. Harlow's just building out a little bit of a gap now, but it's been a lap since Harlow got past, and still it's under a second.
Yeah, certainly. So Harlow not quite out of the woods just yet, but we'll have to wait and see in regards to that. Meanwhile, the battle for second is continuing to close up. McPhee is there, still out in front by a country mile to the tune of about 7.5 seconds, but between Neck and Cislovsky, it is really heating up at the moment, and you can see Neck just dipping wheels off into the grass and into the gravel. He is pushing very hard right now.
Yeah, indeed. He'd have to. If Cislovsky gets too close, then there's absolutely the potential of Neck being undercut through the pit stops and not having the opportunity to defend his position on track if indeed Cislovsky is far too close when they get to the pit stop phase. Here's the Strickland and Jarek battle for 9th and 10th. Strickland gets a bit of the curb, but he's still been inseparable for going on 5 laps now. It's just been simmering, and now Jarek's the closest he's looked in a little while.
Yeah, certainly. These guys have not let each other go pretty much since lap 2 or 3. Currently on lap 12. Have a look how deep Jarek goes under brakes, nearly going into the back of Strickland, but you can see Justin, he's been focusing on the exit there, taking those late apexes, keeping it nice and narrow. That's where his strengths are in these sections of the circuit where one turn flows into another and you don't have an opportunity to rest.
Yeah, precisely. But equal cars, same manufacturer. Jarek's going to have to get one almighty run out of one corner or pressure Strickland into a mistake, because otherwise there's presumably no straight line speed advantage, no advantage over the curbs, no advantage through the high speed corners, nowhere where his car has an advantage or a strength over the other one. It's all about the setup and all about where he can place the car and what speed he can find.
Yeah, all about driving style as well. You could see right there Justin Strickland at that turn was taking that later apex, just beating on the throttle out to the exit curb. Jarek, meanwhile, is putting all of his effort into entry. He's barreling that car up to the apex and thus losing a bit of speed down the straights as a result. You can see it in action at pretty much every corner on this circuit. But down the straights, he does have enough of a draft to just keep in touch with Strickland, and that is an incident between Matt Huppertz and Martin Silvassi, our first pit stop taker. So let's see what happened thanks to modem simulation.
So this is, like I said, Salvasi pitting early. He's going to have to work his way up through some of the field, who it's for position. They just haven't pitted yet, so they don't have to get out of his way. What does Salvasi do? Oh, it's very slow Ferrari there. Gets spun around, and then that collects Salvasi. Pat Gallo, nothing to do with it whatsoever. It was Matt Hoppert's just catching out Gallo for whatever reason, and then nowhere to go for Salvasi. That's what I said when it was risky pitting early.
Yeah, it's definitely, you get involved in stuff like that, but that's a real shame there for Salvasi. It's just put another dent in his campaign. Oh my goodness, now David Mulhall is around. This is not optimal. He's very slow. But it seems like the rest of the race has gone on perfectly fine. These guys still battling as they have.
11th and 12th, this is an interesting one we haven't looked a whole lot at. Brett Cananzi was right up behind Cameron Stubber earlier. Stubber's now built a tiny bit of a gap, but it's still anyone's game, and as we get further down the order, you assume that the drivers get maybe a little less consistent and the gaps could close up or open up a little bit quicker than we might expect right at the pointy end.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So these guys still... Oh, I've just noticed another car spun. Matt Hupperts is around again, and he's got some fairly bad damage on that thing. Something else has happened to him. Actually looks to me like... oh yeah, he was already crabbing from when Gallo hit him. And he's just been struggling to keep that car going for the rest of that lap. Only just got back into the pits. Meanwhile, Montalbano with issues as well. Briggs, someone that we're going to be keeping a very close eye on. He's another one of the drivers that is recovering from earlier issues. Mulhall has still not recovered. Might that be a hardware issue? Might we see a safety car? All up in the air right now. That seems like that's not too bad of a part of the circuit to go off, actually.
Yeah, you'd have to be a long way off the circuit to get that. He's got some movement now, but we saw him earlier and the car was not going anywhere in a hurry, like the engine had died or somehow he'd run out of fuel, like he didn't pack enough or something like that. And it's still going very, very slowly out there, though he did get a teeny bit further out of the firing line. Look back at Briggs, who was doing very well for himself inside the top 10 for some little issues. Car still looks clean, a lot of promise still and a lot of racing still left to go. 20 minutes now, and we're still expecting pit stops out of everyone in the top 20.
Yes, indeed. Pat Gallo has been black flagged by race control as a result of that incident with Matt Hupperts that took out Mr. Salvasi. 1 second stop and hold for Mr. Gallo, and I believe he'll just serve that as he takes his pit stop, which he is doing now. Meanwhile, Briggs, he's not exactly leaving Wayne Hewitt in the dust here. So at the moment, I think it's just consistency being the key for Adam. Just being able to bring the car home, he might be able to get some extra positions just by staying out of trouble. Harlow and Rayner, on the other hand, it's business as usual from these guys. Still incredibly close on track. Just barely a couple of car lengths separating them. And Harlow, he's just not making the headway he needs to try and move more up the field again.
Pulled 2/10 out of Corey Ott the last lap, but that gap is still over 3 seconds. There's a tiny little lock-up again from Susan Harlow. Doesn't seem to affect him, clearly just being aggressive with his brake bias and brake application. Harlow seemed to catch and get past Rayner very quickly, but now cannot scuttle on down the road.
Maybe Harlow's just one of those drivers that's faster when there's a car in front of them. I know there's plenty of them and plenty of us in that community, myself included.
Rizzo now within a second of Solosky. That battle for second place is now well and truly a 3-car fight up there. And I don't think they'll have any team orders at Trick SimSport. But certainly Rizzo, the defending champ, catching up to their new signing teammate.
Yes, indeed. That is a proper 3-car battle. You can see almost getting all three cars in frame on a wide-angle shot, but Blake Neck coming up on Pat Gallo, lapped traffic there. And of course, Gallo has already taken his pit stop, and given that Neck was flashing his lights at him, I don't think Neck is planning to pit anytime soon. Gallo just a little bit wide. He's going to have to pull over and let these guys go, which he does. Looks like, actually, Gallo has been black flagged again. I'm not quite sure why that is.
Incorrectly serving the penalty or some other issue, I can't be sure.
Well, this battle for second has left him behind, and Blake Neck with a couple of technical issues there, it seems, so that could play into his race result as well. Sislovsky and Rizzo are incredibly close at the moment. You can just see all these guys are in each other's lines of sights now. This is what it all comes down to, and it's about now that they'll be considering taking that stop, so this could all go off once again.
Yeah, exactly. Last lap, Solowski closed in Neck a tenth and a half, but then Rizzo closed that in another 5/10. So it's all compacting together like an accordion. We're nearly at 2/3 race done, 1/3 to go. So certainly these guys will only have a small amount of fuel left in the tank, expecting them to pit sooner rather than later for sure. Get a great look at that rear vision camera from Blake Neck, and you can see two angry trick cars back there.
Yeah, certainly
But
can.
they're very nice guys.
Yes, of course, of course. Nice out of the cockpit, nasty when they're in it. Well, even that's kind of inaccurate. They're very good racers at trick.
Ferociously competitive.
Yes,
though.
that is the correct terminology right there.
Yeah, indeed. Blake Neck's pulled a tiny bit on Solowski though, and now Rizzo is close as ever to that. That's and again, I'm gonna flag the possibility that if Rizzo catches and tries to make a move, how hard would Solowski defend that?
Well, I'd say pretty hard, because Rizzo, remember, started in 8th, so he's gained a lot more. Silovsky, meanwhile, is still holding on to the 3rd place that he started in. He's going to want to keep that.
Trent Thomas, we saw, has decided to come into the pit lane, and at the same time we saw Pat Gallo back in again to reserve his penalty or whatever that case was. A lot of guys deciding now, so I expect the leaders maybe next time by, because we've got Trent Thomas, Ryan Jerrick, Richard Hunter in the pit lane.
Yes, indeed. Pit lane is starting to really come alive here. We're on board with Ross Rizzo in this fantastic cockpit of the Porsche 911 RSR. And I love this turn. This entire sequence of turns is fantastic. It's almost double apex at this southern curve, and then use as much of the curb as you possibly can, up to and including the Schumacher S. Slight lift from Rizzo. He's got a lot of pace in that car right now.
Yeah,
Actually the fastest out of all these guys.
Yeah, indeed. Again, last lap by catching Solowski 1/10, who caught Neck by 1/10. And just breathing the throttle a little bit shifts the weight balance momentarily. If that's the moment when you turn the wheel into the corner, it really helps you to get the rotation going. You don't even have to lift fully out of the throttle. It's one of the ways to drive these cars. Do these guys pit? Do they stay out? Next coming into the pits, McPhee already in the pit lane. What can the trick guys do? Can they do a lap longer? Rizzo can, of course he can. Solowski coming in though.
Of course, yes. Ross Rizzo. No, certainly that is pure Ross Rizzo right there. Saving a bit of fuel and staying out a bit longer than everyone else. But it's going to be a battle of the teammates as we take a look at Rayner crossing the start-finish line. Harlow actually coming in, so he's decided to jump first out of that particular battle. So Rayner and Rizzo assuming the top 2 positions as McPhee comes out, and that just goes to show how much of a lead McPhee had.
Yeah, exactly. Only a little bit of traffic, just Mark Rayner for him to deal with. The amount of lead he had before that, I'm sure it's not going to matter. Saw Adam Briggs come past. He's stayed out as well, but no, not 90. 80% of the field pitting now. see Solowski still come out behind Blake Neck and actually a little bit further behind than when they went into the pit lane. It's a bit over a second instead of the half a second that it was before that pit cycle.
So it was nearly a second longer stop there for Zalowski versus Neck. So that's either a very well executed pit stop by Blake Neck or he's underfueled it. We'll find out when the checkered flag flies.
Yeah, indeed. So here is McPhee, your net leader. He's pitted. Rayner hasn't. Presumably will have to this time, but will McPhee get there and be held up before they get to the pit entry in a couple corners time? Probably not going to bother Damien McPhee with the 8 or more second lead that he had, and knowing that Rayner is going to have to come in this time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you're in McPhee's position, you're well and truly the fastest car on track no matter what happens. You've got nothing to lose by just waiting a little bit behind a driver that has yet to come in. Nothing to lose, you might as well do it. Ross Rizzo, meanwhile, coming in from the lead, as does Rayner. McPhee unleashed once again. He's going to resume the lead, and what a lead it is going to be, because his podium compatriots have just come out of the last chicane.
Where's Rizzo going to come out compared to Neck and Solowski? That's what we're watching here. Solowski is quick on this outlap, closing up.
Rizzo's exiting the pits.
Neck, and here comes Rizzo. He's off the limiter, coming down towards turn 1. Has he undercut both of them? I think he has.
Wow. What a stop. What a call by Ross Rizzo. That's fantastic. Just vaulted those guys. Amazing.
Solowski, 9.3 seconds stopped in his box. Rizzo, 8.4 seconds stopped in his box. And that's only 1 second, so part of the jump is he's put in an almighty in-lap, has Ross Rizzo, compared to these other guys. Only half of that was the pit stop and pit lane time. The other half was just, once they got out of his way, he had 1 lap and he put the foot down.
Yeah, that's it. And that is why Ross Rizzo has won all the championships so far. He has been able to adapt himself to any situation. He's been able to just back off a bit when he needs to, but when it comes time to put the hammer down, he's got a mallet made of titanium.
So from 8th on the grid to 2nd for Rizzo, if he's packed enough fuel to hold off Blake Neck, Neck's not that far behind. This will still be a battle for 2nd place. But I tell you what, Rayner and Susan Harlow, they're still a battle after the pit lane. And here they are coming past clearing Pat Gallo.
Yes, indeed. And Gallo immediately on the brakes. Yes, indeed.
Rayner gets a better line up the hill through the Schumacher S. He's not going to trouble Susan Harlow yet, but Harlow just cannot shake him. These guys battling for 7th place.
Yes, indeed. Rayner running a little bit wide there. That's going to hurt him. But coming out of the pits, you haven't got much time to get your bearings about you and get back into a rhythm. It's the drivers that are able to do that the quickest that come out the best from these races in which you have to take a stop. I get the feeling this is not the last we're going to see of the fight between Harlow and Rayner. We have under 10 minutes to go now, so clock is ticking.
Remember, Silvassi pitted early and then he got muddled up a little bit with some of the back markers. He's now leading the train at 12th place all the way back here. Silvassi was a lot closer to the likes of Trent Thomas, Corey Ott and Jackson Susan Harlow before he pitted early, and it's cost him a bunch through the middle of the race.
Yes, indeed. And Silvassi, speaking of, his last lap was a 51.138, which is nearly a second slower than his personal best, so he's not running as well as he probably could right now. He's just looking to recover as much as he can, gain as many positions as he can. And with that, everyone has pitted and we are racing to the end. Blake Neck and Scott Sislovsky are still fighting very hard here. They're not as close to each other as we've seen other battles on track, but you can definitely say they are fighting hard.
Yeah, you can feel the tension in this for the final spot on the podium. Rizzo has just galloped a second clear of Neck, so that's going to take away some of the slipstream that Neck had. Solowski, on the other hand, is just, as you see it on your screen, 6 tenths behind Neck. So down the pit straight, down this straight, towards the chicane.
that was
warping the
way too
curb. He's
deep.
all the way out there. Just get away with that, I think. Will Scott Solowski cost him a tiny bit. But yeah, you can see he'll still have the advantage of some of the slipstream. Here comes the replay, Reese.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to take a look at this. Solowski just going way too deep into there. Just clobbered that curb. But crucially, did not suffer any oversteer, which is important for maintaining that momentum. I tell you what, he hasn't actually lost much time because he's still close to them. Let's have a look at Ryan Jarek and Cameron Stubber. These guys still fighting pretty hard.
Jarek's gotten ahead of Stubber since we last checked in with them. They're clearly very evenly matched because Stubber is still right there.
Yeah, certainly is. And now we'll be able to see once again the difference between these two cars, these two drivers.
5 laps to go, and there's Martin Silvassi catching up to them as well. He is on a recovery drive because we saw he got caught up in that incident with Pat Gallo and Huppets in the Dunlop curve. Now he's moving his way ahead, and behind them is plenty of battles, 10th through to 15th. Midfield is always so close, so fun to watch in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've had quite a few races where we've barely focused on the leaders at all because the battles in the mid-pack have been so entertaining. Mitch Martin currently in 15th position, looking to improve. Remember, he was running right up there with the top guys, and then unfortunately had his incident. Yes, indeed. Currently pressuring Richard Hunter there for 14th position. So be interesting to see what Martin can do in the final 6 minutes of the race.
Porsche versus Porsche. You can see both of them just taking a bit of curb through the first bit of that complex. Less through the second, setting up a great apex. This kink absolutely flat out in any car. And look back again at Stubber, who's closed in on Jarek through that tricky chicane. I tell you what, the Grand Prix one might be tighter, but I think the sports car chicane requires a lot more commitment at the higher speeds and sighting your apexes.
Yeah, absolutely. My audible wince was at Pat Gallo, who absolutely clobbered the anti-cut curbing there as he was letting them go. Jarek, Stubber and Silvassi now well and truly together on track right now. And this could be the holy grail that Martin Silvassi has been searching for all race since his incident. A chance at the top 10 in these final minutes. Oh no! There's been an incident! Just behind Mitch Martin and Pat Gallo. Pat Gallo has really caused a few problems on track at the moment. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I was watching him. He just, it seemed almost like a hardware failure.
He was at least one lap down on these other guys. We get the replay of what happened. At this point, he's not doing anything obstructing getting in anyone's way. He gets on the curb on the outside, the car turning left, and then he just straight onto the racing line, gets speared. That is a very bizarre one. That doesn't look quite like a loss of control as much as maybe, I don't know.
Well, actually, it looks to me like it was a hardware failure for Gallo because he then proceeded to escape back to the garage after revving his car a few times. I think his brake pedal might have gotten stuck. So that's a big shame for Pat. I think the problems that he was suffering from and that others were suffering from as well, that might not have been all down to Gallo himself.
Yeah, back towards the front, Solowski so deep on the brakes into turn one. He didn't get a great run out of the corner at Blake Neck, but Blake Neck would have seen how close he got there. If it was the last lap and you were Solowski, you could have gone that deep, turned towards the apex, and really given Blake Neck something to think about. It's a corner that really encourages a little bit of dive bombing, and that's why we see problems there. But if it's the last lap and you want to have a red hot go, it's a big downhill braking zone. It's possible to come from a car's length back and make it work.
Yeah, absolutely, but you do have to be super confident on the brake pedal and in the front end of your car, because you go too deep around here and it absolutely bites. This is a track that really requires you to think about your turn in, think about when you apply the throttle, think about how hard you're pushing your fronts as well. Neck pushing his fronts a little bit too hard. He's just come off the Schumacher S in the grass. So Sislovsky really starting to pressure him now. He will have seen that and thought, oh, there's only a couple of minutes left. This could be my chance. All of them almost running off into the gravel there. Rizzo too.
Yeah, the grass mowing not exclusive to one team or driver around here. Many hands making light work, keeping that outfield short. This chicane we've seen some tough problems with if you try and carry too much speed through there, but Solowski has closed it right up. Neck has a little wiggle, bit of understeer as well on the inside, and this is as close as Solowski's been in a long time. He'll get a little bit of slipstream, and we've seen how strong he can be on the brakes into turn 1. 2 laps to go.
Yes, indeed. 2 laps, and that's 2 more opportunities for Solowski to send it up the inside, hopefully with licking the stamp first. Of course, Neck has done an absolutely sterling job to hold off the advances from people and to keep himself nice and competitive in this one. He is starting to struggle quite a bit, though. You can visibly see he's having issues with that car at the moment.
45 minutes, definitely an amount of time that can start to wear through your tires, start to change your balance if you've got aggressive camber, aggressive toe, aggressive anti-roll bar settings. A sprint setup can absolutely start to chew through your fronts or chew through your rears. Solowski once again deep on the brakes, misses the final apex of the Dunlop corner there. This is showing Neck how hard he can get on the brakes. Lost some of the car lengths he had, just a teeny bit further back.
Yes, indeed. So that sets Sislovski's charge back a fair bit, but he's still got one more lap after this to have a red-hot go at it. Our leader, Damien McPhee, just coming into the last turn, but Martin Silvassi, Ryan Jerrick, and Co fighting hard, as are these guys, Montalbano and McLeod. They've changed position 3 times already in the last lap, so these guys fighting incredibly hard. Mitch McLeod trying all sorts of experimental lines versus Benito Montalbano here.
Yeah, Montalbano runs a bit deep, McLeod tries to cross it back, and that kind of thing can definitely swap the positions a few times. And Cameron Motorsport through the first apex deep on the brakes compared to Montaldo, who's trying to get this exit speed out of the second apex of the S's there. All kinds of different strategies at play. We look once again at your leader just to reassure you he exists and he's still out there, Reese.
Yes, of course. Almost think that he would phase out of existence completely so far ahead, but Damien McPhee, an excellent drive, and Ryan Jerrick and Cameron Stubber have managed to maintain their current position. Silvassi has not been able to get past any of them, but this may be his last opportunity. He may have very quickly lost that because that was a bit of rotation on the inside of the corner.
Yeah, caught a little bit of grass on the inside maybe, or maybe he was there because the car was turning a bit too well. No confidence putting the power down without it spinning, so doesn't make good progress through there. As we said, the last lap, and only a few battles out there. And Harlow back
They've
behind
swapped.
Rain. Yeah, how's that happened? Not on the most recent lap, so not sure.
Must have happened a couple of laps ago. Well, that position may very well be sorted. And I tell you, one position that's been sorted from the very start is this one. Damien McPhee for Pure Racing Team rounding the final corner to take the win here. An absolutely phenomenal drive once again from the not full-time competitor. Ross Rizzo, meanwhile, recovers to finish second. An excellent strategy drive from him, and Blake Neck maintaining third. Another awesome job, and Scott Sedlowski in fourth.
Yep, and then behind them battle Rayner and Harlow, who've gotten past Corey Ott somewhere along the line. So this now for 6th and 7th, and Rayner will get to the line ahead of Harlow, and in the background there, Corey Ottu and Justin Strickland coming across the line, and Cameron Stubber with a great run at Ryan Jerrick. It's not going to be enough. Silvassi still 12th, even though we were hoping expecting him to go up a couple more positions. And Adam Briggs, another driver, having a tough race of it, finishing 15th. Just a few more battles still out there on the circuit race.
Yes, indeed. But vast majority of cars crossing the line. And last battle here, Reese Keane versus Ben Johnson. That's for 21st and 22nd. Keane winning out at the very end. Oh, and actually, it looks like there's some side-by-side running between Chris Polly and Matt Huppets. Those guys crossing the line just mere hundredths of a second apart. Huppets losing out right at the final turn.
Yeah, in what's effectively his spare car, because it was crabbing very, very poorly earlier. So him persisting at Matt Huppets and getting to the finish line, I've got some respect for that.
Yeah, certainly. These are the unofficial results up on your screen now. McPhee, Rizzo, Neck, your podium. Zalowski and Thomas completing the top 5, and the top 8 rounded out by Rayner, Harlow and Ott.
Yeah, 9th place going to Justin Strickland, 10th to Ryan Jerrick, 11th to Cameron Stubber, 12th goes to Martin Silvassi, 13th is Daniel Cheney, 14th Richard Hunter, 15th is DPR Racing teammate Adam Briggs, and 16th is Mitch Martin.
In 17th, we have Hayden Dobman and Wayne Hewitt just behind him. Cananzi and Bartholomew as well, with Keane, Johnson, Jellings and Misdale rounding out your 24.
A little bit further down the order now, from 25th, David Clements, 26th is Gary Cousins, 27th, Benito Montalvo, 28th, Mitch McLeod, 29th, Paul Nichols, 30th, Alex Court, the last car on the lead lap. 31st is David Farrelly, a lap down. 32nd, Chris Polly.
Matt Huppets, who you just saw crossing the line behind Polly, in 33rd. Pat Gallo retiring with those hardware issues. Very unfortunate, Pat. Our thoughts are with you and your equipment. David Mulhall barely completing half the race there. So that was quite the race that we have had here today. And we move now into the driver interview phase. Before we say goodbye, we say hello, on the other hand, to Damien McPhee in car number 722. You didn't seem very troubled out there today, Damien.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, no, that was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, definitely seemed that way. What kind of setup work did you do on the car to just get it that comfortable for you?
Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing with the setup. Thought I was on the right track, and then I'd try something else and it was exactly the same. So yeah, I just sort of went with whatever and paid out all right.
Awesome stuff. Well, it definitely seems like you had a handle on that car despite the issues that you did have. You have said earlier on in the season that you're not looking to compete in this season full time, but surely performances like this show that you really have a crack at the title if you give it a full go.
Yeah, it's the daylight savings in Queensland. You know, we get home at 5:30 and practice starts at 6 or something. It's just, it needs to be pushed back an hour, and I think then we'll be able to have a good crack at it. But with family commitments and everything, it's just too early.
That's understandable, Damien. Well, before we let you go, congratulations. Are there any shout-outs you'd like to give?
No, just good work, everyone from GLA. It's a good series, and I always enjoy watching it. And yeah, thanks everyone. And you guys, of course.
Thank you very much, Damien. Mr. McPhee there from Pure Racing Team. We are going to now go to our second place finisher, Mr. Rizzo from Trick Sim Sports. Ross, starting 8th, finishing 2nd. That was a fairly typical drive from you, I'd say.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think it all started with that start. Just got a great launch. Marty gave me room on the outside, and then there was plenty of gap to absolutely lick the stamp and hopefully make it stick. And quite frankly, I think the car wasn't quite podium worthy, but I think about half race distance, the tyres on the other cars started to burn out, and that's when suddenly the car looked half competitive. So I was very pleased with the second half of that race in particular. That's where it all really came to fruition.
Pit strategy also seemed a very good strength of yours. David did note that you put in a hugely fantastic in-lap to jump both Neck and your teammate Seslowski.
Wasn't so much the in-lap. I think I overcooked it into the I think the Bilstein hairpin, the one that's no, is it Dunlop, the one before Schumacher S's? I overcooked it into there and was a little conservative on the pit entry, I think, but it come out way ahead of where I expected. I thought I might split them, but was super surprised and pleased to see that I came out in front.
Well, regardless, that is a really good result for you. Second step on the podium, and that's going to help your Drivers' Championship, especially versus John Peasnick, who is not here.
Yeah, absolutely. Shame he couldn't up tonight. It would have been interesting to see him and Damo battle at the front. Don't think I would have had any business near them, to be quite frank. But you know, those kinds of results, second place behind the class of the field is what helps keeps the championship alive. So we'll press on and hope.
Any shout-outs, Ross?
Of course. For Damien on the win and Pure Racing team for the result. To the boys at Trick Sim Sports, was a tough night for some of the boys. So Trent and Marty put in a lot of effort, especially in setup wise, and probably didn't quite get the results they deserved. And Scott, I think, definitely deserved a podium today, but just didn't work out for him. So big thanks to Trick Custom Fabrications, Knight Rider Designs, and to SimSpeed TV and Geodesic Racing and GT Leagues Australia.
Awesome stuff, Ross Rizzo, your second place finisher there. Unfortunately, we don't have our third place man waiting for an interview at the moment, so I think that might have to be where we wrap it up here, David. That was an awesome event for sure.
Yep. Good driving up the top of the field, great battles all the way down past 20th place. Everything I was hoping we'd get, you know, that sprint feel, but with a little bit of strategy thrown in, some different pit stop ideas, and great driving around the top end of the field. A little bit of championship implications, and I can't wait for next round.
Yeah, certainly. Speaking of next round, it is next Wednesday, exactly the same time. So if you have just watched this for the first time and you like what you see, come back next week. We're going to be racing at Spa. That's going to be an amazing race. Awesome circuit, awesome cars, awesome racing, awesome championship. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. We do appreciate your patronage on SimSpeed TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Be sure to subscribe to both channels to get updates on the latest in sim racing, broadcasting, and some fantastic racing to boot. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Big thanks to Alpinestars Geodesic Racing for sponsoring this series, and thanks to GT Leagues Australia for putting the whole show on. We'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?